Of all the places in the world Santa Claus could call home, why would he choose the freezing, empty North Pole? It's a question we've all accepted without much thought. I mean, who really wants to live in an icy wasteland? But here's the thing. Santa didn't always live at the North Pole. In fact, the idea of him living there is only about 150 years old. So why did Santa move to the North Pole? The truth might surprise you. First off, Santa Claus as we know him today. Jolly, red suit, big belly, wasn't always this way. He started as Saint Nicholas, a kind and generous man who lived in modern-day Turkey. Back then, Saint Nick had no sleigh, no reindeer, and definitely no magical Arctic workshop. So how did he go from a saint in Turkey to a legend in the North Pole? It's actually thanks to a combination of poetry, art, and some really crazy marketing. It all started in 1823 with a poem called A Visit from St. Nicholas. You probably know it by its opening line. "'Twas the night before Christmas." This poem introduced Santa as a magical figure who could travel the world delivering gifts in a single night. But weirdly, it didn't say where Santa lived. That's where a cartoonist named Thomas Nast comes in. In the 1860s, Nast created a series of drawings of Santa Claus for a magazine called Harper's Weekly. He was the guy who gave Santa the fluffy beard, the round belly, and the iconic red suit. Then, in 1869, Nast went one step further and declared that Santa's home was the North Pole. But why the North Pole? Well, here's the interesting part. At the time, the North Pole was this mysterious, uncharted place. Nobody had ever been there, so it had this almost magical quality. Think about it. If Santa lived somewhere like a regular town, people might try to find him. But putting him at the North Pole, that made him untouchable. It was far away, mysterious, and completely out of reach. It was perfect. The next and perhaps most compelling reason Nast chose the North Pole as Santa's home is because it snows there all year long. And we all know that the snow is a symbol for Christmas in most part of the world. So the North Pole seemed a fitting refuge for Santa Claus. And there was another reason, too. Back in the 19th century, people were obsessed with Arctic exploration. Explorers like Robert Peary and Frederick Cook were racing to see who could reach the North Pole first, and stories about their adventures were all over the news. So, by placing Santa in the Arctic, it tied him to this sense of adventure and discovery that everyone was fascinated by. Now, let's talk about the reindeer. Well, reindeer are native to Arctic regions where the North Pole is situated, so it just made sense to pair Santa with them. They made the whole story feel believable. Well, as believable as a guy flying around the world delivering gifts can be. But here's the kicker. Santa's move to the North Pole wasn't just about mystery and adventure. It was also brilliant marketing. By the early 20th century, big companies like Coca-Cola were using Santa Claus to sell Christmas as a brand. In 1931, Coca-Cola commissioned illustrator Haddon Sundblom to create images of Santa Claus for an ad campaign. His depictions of Santa became widely embraced. Coca-Cola, and their ad, really leaned into this idea of Santa living in a snowy, magical workshop filled with hardworking elves. It gave the holiday a cozy, whimsical vibe that made people feel warm and festive. And let's be real, once Santa's home became part of these massive ad campaigns, it was game over. The North Pole was locked in as Santa's official address. Now, here's something to think about. The North Pole isn't just a fun part of Santa's story, it's also a symbol of something bigger. Today, the Arctic is under threat because of climate change. The ice is melting, and scientists say that one day, the North Pole as we know it might not even exist. So, what happens to Santa's home if the North Pole disappears? It's a weird thought, right? So, why does Santa even live at the North Pole? Because it's more than just a place. It's a symbol of mystery, wonder, and the magic of Christmas that reminds us to dream a little bigger, even if we're talking about a guy who somehow squeezes down chimneys. And hey, maybe that's the best part. Santa's home isn't just about where he is. It's about what he represents. Something far away, a little mysterious, but always worth believing in. And there you have it, the story behind why Santa Claus lives at the North Pole. So, there goes my Christmas gift to you, a new way to see Santa's story. Now, it's your turn to give me a little gift by tapping that subscribe button. Let's keep the magic alive together. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in the next one.